Hi ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Unit 2 review. We are now on page 3, the calculator section. So get out your calculators. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by organizing my graph for number 9. Since this is the Ferris wheel problem, what I'm going to do is I'm going to organize the x values. That usually refers to the time, and it's going to refer to the time in this example. It's going to be seconds. The lowest value here is 3, the highest value is 7. And then over here, this is going to be the height for the y value. Now the heights here are going to be 20 and also 80. So let's take a look. It's 80 feet above the ground at 3 seconds, so it's going to be a point right here and then a point right here. And then we are going to create a graph that looks like this. Now if we wanted to create it any further, right, we should end up getting kind of that sinusoidal curve that goes up and down. So let's figure out our a values to help us create this equation. So let's start off. A is going to be equal to the max, which is 80, minus the min, which is 20, divided by 2. So up top we get 60 divided by 2, and we should get 30 for the a value. B value, on the other hand, what I'm going to do is I see that this is half a pi, or excuse me, half a period. So what I do here, the b value is 2 pi over the period. So I'm going to write 2 pi over. So from 3 to 7, that's 4, then double it. So that's going to give me 8. Or I could just reduce it down to pi over 4. Or you could just put pi over half the period. Doesn't matter. Some people just like to jump straight there. C value. The c value, since we're going to start at this point, the point that I mark right here, we want to try and see how far it is away from the y-axis. So what we do here is we go over 3 units, so the c value here is going to be 3, and then d, which is going to be the equilibrium, so I'm going to take the minimum, which is 20, plus the amplitude, which is 30, and that gives me 50. So there are my a, b, and c values specifically just from that graph. So let's move on to part A. So it says write a sinusoidal equation. So I'm going to start with that point. It's also going to be positive if I choose cosine. And you want to choose cosine because it just makes things a lot easier. So we're going to start off with the amplitude, 30. Then we're going to write down cosine. Now, what happens after cosine is parentheses. So you have to place in the pi over 4, then another parentheses, x minus 3, and then close the parentheses 2 times. You need to make sure that you do that in your calculator. And then plus d, which is also the equilibrium. And there's my equation. 30 cosine, parenthesis, pi over 4, another parenthesis, x minus 3, 2 parentheses closed, and then plus 50. And then what you're going to do for part B and part C, you can use your calculator for both of these, and you kind of have to for these types of problems, since your answer should be correct to 3 decimal places. So let's go for it. So the first one, we're saying t is equal to 11.5. So remember, we can also rewrite this as h is equal to cosine of pi over 4 x, but instead of using x, we can use t. T minus 3, close the parentheses twice, plus 50. So here what we'll do is we'll place in the t into this problem. So h is equal to 30 cosine of pi over 4, and then place in that value 11.5 minus 3 plus 50. Now I'm not going to calculate this just yet. I'm going to plug all these things in my calculator and do part B and part C at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to slide that up. Part C, on the other hand, what they're trying to do is you're given the height being 70 feet, and they want you to try and figure out what the t is. So, and also that the t must be positive. Now, the thing about this calculator here is it's not a TI 83 or 84, it's actually an 89. It's the only one I could actually get working, but I'm going to still use it the same way. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the y equals. So into the y equals spot right here, we're going to type in the whole thing. 30 cosine of, I'm going to do pi divided by 4, open parentheses, and I'm going to place in x minus 3, close the parentheses twice, plus 50. Now that's going to be in my first y equals. just right there. Now, if I graph this, it actually does not even show up at all. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to adjust the window. So I want to go to my window right now. And if I look back at my graph over here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get my calculator to mimic that specific window. So I'm going to have to change around a couple values. So what I do is for the X-min, I start actually at 0 because we're not going to have negative time whenever we're dealing with these word problems. And since I want to do a couple loops, notice how the lowest value is 7. If I double that, that would give me 14. So I'm going to just go to, let's say I'm going to go to 30. And it's going to go up by 1. Now the Y value, the lowest Y value here is 20 and highest value is 80. So I want to pick something a little bit before it. So I'm going to pick 15 and just something before 20. And I want to pick something a little bit over 80. So I'm going to choose 90. Yet again, these things do not matter too much, just as long to fit in the whole window. And I'm going to go up by 5. I'm going to go up by 5. Now let's take a look at the graph, see what it looks like. And right there you can see a whole bunch of waves and mean that, you know, where Sarah's height is going to be during some specific times. Now, let's scroll down here. So to figure out the first one, or I should say letter B, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my calculator, and in your interface, what you want to do is you want to go to second trace, which is calculate. So in my, I'm going to go to value, number 1. And this allows me to plug in any type of X value I want. So I want to plug in 11.5. And what it's going to do is it's going to spin out a next value for me. So it's 77.716. So I'm going to write that there. 77.716. And just to double check, do I need to round up the 6? No, I don't. And I leave it at 77.716. Make sure that you're also including the units too. So if I'm talking about feet, I'm going to include feet as well. Just like that. Now the second one, this one's a little bit tricky. You need to be able to know how to manipulate the calculator a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to y equals. And I'm going to put in 70 into this problem. So put into y2. So I have another row for the y values. And what this is going to do, this is going to end up creating a horizontal line right across. And so what I'm looking for is, it says what are the first 2 times after 0. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for these 2 intersections at this top part of the curve. So to do that, you want to type in second trace, which will give you the calculate button, and you'll get to a menu that looks like this. You want intersection, which is 5, and what you want to do is you want to keep moving this cursor over till it gets really close to one of the intersections. So I'm going to deal with the first one over here. Notice how my cursor isn't exactly on it, and neither is, maybe yours might, maybe yours might not. I want to hit enter, 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 enter. Okay. Well, mine is a little bit different than yours, but you should be able to just hit enter 3 times and being able to get the answer. So I gotta go first curve, second curve, lower. I'm gonna make that go a little bit to the left, a little to the right. And my intersection is going to be 1.929. Okay, 1.192. Oh, what did that read again? 929. 929. And that's going to be seconds. Now I want the other intersection, so I'm going to do that again. Go down to intersection. Go to the other part of the curve. Get really close to it. Hit enter. Hit enter again. It's going to ask me the lower bound. Your calculator would not ask this, by the way, so you don't have to worry about doing an upper bound and lower bound. Okay, so the intersection is going to be roughly 4.07, and then we want to round that up to 1 because of the 8 before it. So 4.071. 4.071 seconds. And those are your 2 answers. Now, yet again, there's not really too much work that you can show for those problems, so just make sure that you type in all the numbers correctly. And number 10, just to finish this off, this is fairly easy. Sine cosine, cosecant, and secant are all going to have 2 pi for their periods, while tangent and cotangent are both going to just have pi. Make sure you guys remember that. Alright, thank you for page 3. Please click the link in the top right hand corner to move on to the next page, or if you need to move to the previous pages to check your work, click the top left hand corner, and have a good day.